Hey y'all, and welcome back to a new video of a game that I played just recently where I played a perfect game. Well, near perfect, 97.1% accuracy, but I'm still going to count it because it was a pretty fun game with like 30 couple moves. So let's just get into it. I start off the game with d4, the only opening I know. My opponent goes d5, and I go bishop f4, the accelerated London system. This is a very common opening at all levels of the game. In fact, I believe it was just played in the most recent World Championship match, so it's an okay opening. My opponent goes c6, I go e3. My opponent goes knight f6, and this is a line where I like to play this move c4 pretty quickly. Put pressure on the center. I want my knight up here. My opponent has developed a little bit passively with this move c6 here. Normally, what black wants to do is play e6 and play this move c5. But now, since they've already committed with c6, I think that c4 is a very common way to play here, and it makes a lot of sense. My opponent plays e6. I go knight c3. Of course, I want to put pressure on the center immediately. Knight f3 also makes a lot of sense, but I'd rather play knight c3 first. My opponent plays bishop d6, and I go back to bishop g3. And bishop g3 makes a lot of sense as well. What I could do here, there are some other lines. Like bishop g3 is what is the engine's top choice at depth of 21, so that's pretty good. But bishop g3, the idea is after takes, I open up my rook here, and I get some immediate play after maybe some bishop d3, knight f3. I maybe bring my queen out in some lines, and after I kick out this knight, of course, and I try to win the game. A very common idea in many London positions. Another idea that I could have used here, which I believe the game review engine is telling me to do, is to play this move bishop g5 instead. Going for this pin instead, and after h6 here, you can't really play g5 because this is a little too weakening of the king side where the king wants the castle, since c6 was already played, and it means that black probably has to make some concessions, like here, maybe knight bd7, and play like this. I could have done either way. I went bishop g3 because this is what I'm trained to do, and my opponent goes queen c7. This is another line. This is a line. This is a very natural line. The idea is, of course, that you're targeting the bishop. He's trying to keep it normal, and the queen kind of goes there in many lines, but in reality, it's more of just a development move. There's not much of an idea behind it. And what I can do here is immediately exploit it, which I don't do. I exploit it later. Do I actually? Well, I do, but a little much later. What I could have done here is play this move rook c1, which is the engine's top choice. Going at the queen with moves like this, and I looked at this. I looked at rook c1. The reason why I didn't go for this is because I thought, like, even after castles, if I try to open stuff up, like here, my opponent can play ed, and I'm like, okay, you know what, I don't have this move because of checks, of course, and there's nothing here, so I'm like, what am I doing here? What am I doing? There's not really any point to do this, so I didn't play rook c1, and I instead played this move knight f3, which is one of the other top choices, of course, because this is a pretty perfect game, right? So knight f3, the idea is I want to put the knight up here. If he takes like this, I might even recapture with the bishop, but I might probably recapture with the pawn in all actuality, and try to exploit that. My queen comes up to d3. My queen might come up over here after taking back with the pawn after the knight comes out, and maybe the bishop comes up to d3, and then I get like some h4 pawn push, and I do quite well. And here my opponent kind of self-collapsed. Kind of self-destructed here on move 7 of this game. Sorry. And he played a very large positional mistake, even though the engine doesn't think so at first glance. He played the move bishop takes g3. And this is a bad move. This is a very bad move. The engine says it's good, but this is a horrendous move. Of course, I take back with the h-pawn. No brainer. Take back with the h-pawn. Now, what my opponent has done, he has helped me a lot. He's helped me very greatly. He is going to have to castle over this way. You know how I know that? Because he's already played c6, and I have c4 already on the board. So if he castles over on this side of the board, let's just show something random, like bishop d7 here, knight a6. here, and long castles, this is already kind of over because I can immediately rip open the position with CD takes and like some absurd lines like bishop a6 here. I'm gonna get my rook to c1, queen to b3. You can already see how it's over. He has these doubled pawns in front of his king, and yeah, you probably shouldn't be castling on the side where I have like all of my forces. So he's gonna have to castle kingside, which means that my rook is perfectly placed to attack him, which is very, very nice. Or he has to keep the king in the center. Instead, my opponent decides to castle. He could have kept the king in the center. He could have kept the king in the center for a couple moves. Played like moves like knight bd7, very natural, and tried to play like this. Instead, he castles. And I'm like, okay, you know what? I have some nice ideas here. I play this very cool move. Well, actually, no, not yet. First of all, I just put my knight in the center. I don't see why not. I think this is very reasonable. Knight in the center makes a lot of sense. It can be kicked out with this move knight bd7, but I'm like, you know what? Is it really going to be kicked out? f4. f4. Great move. Basically, f4, saying, okay, yeah, sure, take me. I'm going to take with a d pawn. Now your knight has to leave. And what happens is that I go bishop d3. I make some like insane attacking. If you can flow h6, probably have like queen g4 or something. And the attack is unstoppable. The attack is literally going to win the game. I'm going to go king f2, bring the other rook over. It's over. It's over. Dead in the water here. And there's nothing he can do. Fortunately, my opponent realized that and didn't take my knight. Otherwise, this game would be a lot shorter. They instead played this move, g6. Okay. I assume that the idea is that he's preemptively preparing for bishop d3, so it comes at less of a hefty cost. But another issue with g6 is that it makes a hook. Of course, not that big of a hook. H6 would have made a larger hook, but g6 makes a hook. And now there's sacrifices, right? Maybe I'm going to sacrifice my knight. Maybe I'm going to sacrifice my bishop in the long run. Maybe I'm going to sacrifice my rook here in some lines. And it's getting a little scary for him. So I decided, you know what? There's one piece there in his position that's kind of not letting my attack go through, and it's this knight. That's kind of what I kind of looked at. I saw, okay, this knight, that's the problem piece. Let's get it out of there. G4. Another great move. G4. I'm coming up here. I'm knocking on the door. This knight is going to have to go. Like, I don't even know what he has to do. Probably has to, like, sack his structure. And then, like, G5. I start pressuring him. Queen G4 here and here is just going to come. And as you can see, the advantage is a plus 1.5. Because my opponent can do nothing. Let's say they give me a check. I can go King F2. Okay? There's no more checks. Even if, like, let's say I get my queen over here. If you give me another check, no more checks, bishop e2, it's over. It's GG's. And everything can, like, spiral out of control very quickly is my point. So my opponent has to be careful, and they're not. Instead, they take on e5. Which is okay. Which is okay by itself. I understand the appeal. You're trying to trade off my attacking pieces and make sure that there's less to defend. But now I'm gonna take with the f pawn. I should have taken with the d pawn here. This is my only like inaccuracy of the game. Should take with the d pawn after like knight e8, trying to come over here. I go g5, and now the queen can't really get in. But I thought that taking with the f pawn made a little more sense because I'm just keeping my structure more intact. They're both okay, right? I still keep the advantage, but I probably should have taken with the f pawn, with the d pawn. My opponent plays the move that I thought they were gonna play. My opponent plays knight e8, and it's clear to me that I'm winning. Knight e8. Idea is like knight g7 and like h5 and some lines, like trying to defend, like desperately trying to defend. But here I thought of a cool idea. First of all, one of their ideas is to play f6. Not anymore. G5. Now there's no more f6. If you play f6 now, I take it, and look what you've done. Look what you've done. Now the position is just even better for white. It's even better for white. Queen g5. I'm coming over here. I'm gonna bring my rook in. There's gonna be sacrifices galore after bishop d3, bishop g6, and we're just going to win the game. We're just going to win the game. It's over. But after g5, my opponent really has nothing, and they thought of one quick idea to try and save themselves. They thought of this move king g7, which is a good try. The idea is to play rook h8 and defend over here on this file, which it makes a lot of sense. My opponent is good at the game. He's 2200, right? So I have to keep going. I play rook c1. Now, I realize, okay, what I could have done, I could play queen g4. This is a move. Queen g4, I come over here. Let's say rook h8. I don't know. Bishop d3. I start targeting stuff. He takes my pawn. I have to take. And what really ends up happening is that there's not really as much of an attack as it looks on Black's king. White is still better because Black's pieces suck, and I'm clearly winning. But it's not the attack that does it. And I thought, okay, you know what I can do here? Why don't I play on both sides of the board? And I play one of the engine's top engine moves. They're actually all the same. They're all plus 2.87. They're literally all the same. But I play rook c1. And this is one of the engine's moves. The idea is clear. I'm threatening a pawn. I'm threatening to take a pawn. Like, that's literally it. I'm threatening to take a pawn. But it's worse than that, because what happens after I take that pawn is that my knight is going to get into this square, and I'm going to pressure him. I'm going to pressure him. That's the point. I'm getting my knight in. It's not the pawn. It's the knight, right? So, after rook c1, my opponent has to do something to make sure that I don't win a pawn. So he goes queen e7. Very reasonable. Attacking this pawn. And maybe like trying to come over here on some lines. Makes a lot of sense. Now I play queen g4. This is the only move. I have to defend my pawn. And I want to get in on this. Of course, queen g4 makes a lot of sense. My opponent goes rook h8. Reasonable. And I go bishop d3. Simply saying, okay, you know what? I have an idea. My idea is I might sacrifice here in the future. I might want to take. I might want to go this move. I might want to go this move. Very important. Trying to get the knight in up here. But I would have to take first because otherwise my structure is a little bit shaky, you know? My opponent kind of freaks out here. What he could have done, he could have just sat back and relaxed. Played king g8. Been fine for a couple of moves. Of course I'm going to win. But it's a little bit trickier to do that. I'll have to try a little harder. I have to play like moves like rook c2, play g3, get my rooks in over here. Of course I'm winning. I'm winning here. I'm always winning. But, I mean, like, I have to work for it now. Instead, he goes a little crazy and plays this move h5. Trying to blow open everything. And, of course, if I don't take, my advantage goes down a lot. So, the next move is easy. I have to take. En passant, G takes h6. If you don't know, this is a rule. In chess has many strange and exciting rules that we all love, especially this one. And yeah, it means if a pawn moves twice, you can take it with your pawn on the third rank, on the fourth rank, like that. But this isn't an en passant channel. We're just gonna blaze past that. My opponent takes back the rook, of course, and now I realize, okay, you know what's gonna happen? I'm gonna take here. He's gonna recapture, and what's gonna happen? I'm gonna play this move, king d2. Very important, king d2. Now my other rook is coming in. All the moves are fine. King f2, king e2, king d2. These are all fine, but king d2 is the best one. It's the best one. And the reason why is actually pretty simple. I can explain it. Wait, I thought king f2. You know what? That makes some sense. But what am I doing? What am I doing with my king, like, right here in the center with this open file? That doesn't make any sense. And it's the worst move of the three. It's 4.3. Next move, king e2. Okay, that makes a little more sense. Now my king is a little more shielded. But again, why am I like in this line with the queen? Why am I getting into that like trouble with the light square, especially since he has a light square bishop? I don't know what I'm doing there. I also don't know why I'm trapping my bishop in here. That's another big issue. So I'm like, okay, king d2 makes the most sense. And it's because those moves are worse. This move doesn't do anything that those moves are bad for. And my bishop can come in, my knight can come in, everything is good. If you take this pawn, my bishop goes down, my knight goes up, and I win. And my opponent goes king g7. No brainer, rook h1. Put the rook on the open file, I'm going to win. Pretty easy. And my opponent goes f5. Still trying to make it work. If I take on f6, he's forced to take back with the queen, because otherwise I win this pawn. And I'm winning here after queen h3, and I'm getting in. And I saw this. He doesn't have enough firepower here after like something like 92, and I'm all good. But what I didn't really like about that move, and why I decided to play queen h3 instead, is because I thought, you know what? If I take on Basant, what he can do, he can eventually blow open the center and finally get his bishop out into the game. And I'm just like, why am I allowing this? Why am I allowing him to get his pieces out when a lot of my attack has been because all his pieces suck? Like, these pieces aren't playing, this piece is barely playing, and I'm doing quite well with all of my pieces in the game, with my knight being able to reroute pretty quickly, and my bishop literally targeting the king, right? So why am I allowing these pieces in the game? So I play queen h3 because of that. And now I immediately threaten a quick little checkmate here. Like, if he does nothing, it's mate in 3 after queen h8 here, rook h2 here and here. Pretty simple checkmate. And it's over. Again, it's over, but he still has to play on, and he plays the best move. He goes king f7. King f7, and literally every other move is mate. The second best move is queen f6, sacking your queen, which is pretty funny, but king f7 is the best move. And now I go queen h7, and his idea is that he's blocking the knight, right? But I calculated a little bit farther than him. I calculated farther, and I saw, okay, after rook h6, obviously his idea here is to go queen g5, defending everything. I mean, this is pretty simple stuff. He's defending everything. But now I thought, you know what? How can I bring another piece to the party? And the only way I can do that, this pawn is pretty well defended. The only way I can do that is with the move knight e2. Very good move. Very, very nice move. Simply, I'm getting my knight to f4, and I'm winning the game. That's literally all that's going to happen. And I'm going to sack my bishop doing it, which is a little funny. He goes queen g2. Of course, very reasonable. Pinning my knight to my king. And now I play the move king c3. Again, the best move. And basically what I'm saying, if you take this pawn, I'm going to go knight f4. It's over. You can't take because of, like, not knight g6. Ooh. Well, first of all, I'm attacking the queen, I guess. Queen back, rook g6, yeah. Either way, you know, that's kind of what I'm doing here. After king c3, he knows he's lost, but he tries to play on a little bit more. He goes bishop d7. He's trying to bring his rook over here to defend the knight. Reasonable, but I go knight f4 with tempo, hitting the queen, hitting the pawn. I'm going to win the pawn, and it's over for him. My opponent goes queen g1, and my idea here after rook g6 and rook g8 was, well, after rook g8, it's just this, and he loses connection with the rook, right? And it's over, threatening mate, and it's GG's. Instead of that, my opponent decides to give me a check first, but my king is able to run here. If he comes here, I can play this move bishop e2, or I can play this move king b3, which is kind of funny. Just getting in here. I can even take with the king, with the king up all the way up here, and this is how I do it. Actually, king c5 is the best move here. A little scary, you have to admit, but it's winning. Instead of that, my opponent just doesn't give me any more checks and plays this move rook g8 and loses. He's going to lose here. There's nothing he can do. He gives me another check. I block with the bishop. He doesn't have any more checks. He takes on e3 and gets checkmated on f8. Very nice stuff. Very nice stuff. I looked at the game review here after the game, which I normally do, and I was like, you know what, 97.1. That's enough. I don't need to get any higher than that. That's pretty good. That's pretty good if you ask me. And after this game, I played a chess tournament in my city, and videos about that will be coming out later this week. But I decided to end it off here because I didn't want to change my my attitude after winning this game. Anyways, that's all I've got for you today. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you guys found this entertaining, instructive, all of the above. If you did, remember to like, subscribe, do all the normal things YouTubers tell you to do. And yeah, good evening and good night.